Esteemed guests, good morning and welcome to Fortifying Business Success, Guarantees and Financial Aid. I am delighted to kick off this event organized by Invest Moldova Agency, namely by Legal and Aftercare Department, which is a young one, but very ambitious and dynamic one. It's truly inspiring to see such a diverse and engaged audience from seasoned investors to government representatives, all united by a common goal, fostering business growth in Moldova. Turning our attention to Invest Moldova Agency, distinguished guests, as I mentioned earlier, this event is brought to you by Invest Moldova Agency. In this regard, it is my honor to invite to the stage for a few words my awesome boss, Natalia Bejan, General Director of Invest Moldova Agency.
Thank you, Evelina. I will just stand closer, if I may, to you. I'm very happy to start the last event of Moldova Business Week. This is the 18th event we are organizing, and this is the first event organized by the Aftercare Department at Invest Moldova Agency. Why this is important is because this is a brand new department. It didn't exist even half a year ago. And why it is also important is because we realized that one of the biggest potentials we have in Moldova is working with the investors who are already here. We also see this through the numbers, and this is no news to anyone, but it took maybe some time just to realize and to put the things to the right places. Most of the foreign direct investments in the Republic of Moldova come from the profits of the companies, foreign direct investment companies who already operate in Moldova and decide to reinvest their money also here. You know that we have 0% tax on retained earnings, and the numbers that we see in terms of reinvested profits are showing us not only that Moldova can bring money, or companies in Moldova can earn money, but also those companies feel comfortable enough and they see business potential to extend their activities here. And when I'm speaking about them, I'm actually speaking about some of you here, and the event that we decided to organize together with the Legal and Aftercare Department was specifically focused for the topic of guarantees and support insurances for the investments, because we understand not only the geopolitical environment where we are, but also the basic need of every single investor to make sure that their investment is safe and that they can just operate by thinking about their business aspects and not worrying about other types of the risks. I'm very happy that today we are going to present to you maybe not tens and hundreds for sure of instruments that there are for guarantees. There are just a couple of them, some 5 of them that we are going to present today, but they are very specific ones and they are workable ones, and they are presented by international institutions and also by the state, so you have like real authorities behind them. I wish you a productive, interesting, useful event, and also just reiterating that Invest Moldova is not only here, is every single day available to support you operationally. So thank you very much. And with your permission, Evelina, I would like then to offer the word to Mr. Dumitru Alaiba, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Economic Development and Digitalization. Dumitru.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you. Well, let's just start with a round of applause for all the guys at Invest Moldova who really did an amazing job at making this week such a great success. And thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your interest in the conversations that we had throughout the week in 4 different locations, 16 different events, about 1,000 people, more than 1,000 people, 23 countries. So this is what I call success. Now, this is the last, but definitely not the least important event. And just to sum up the way we see things, of course, Moldova has a very bright future in front of it, in front of our country. fueled by the European integration, which is a signal to investments and to investors like no other, fueled by a very ambitious and I might say aggressive reform agenda that we are highly committed to. There is a lot of space from the internal inefficiencies that we can make into an opportunity. There is a lot of when we speak about bureaucracy, when we speak about the inexisting links in this economy, like we were just speaking in another event about, we don't have a proper stock exchange in Moldova, and this is costing us growth. And there are many things that we still need to fix. And this is what I call reform in terms of industrialization, in terms of SMEs, in terms of many other fields that we are paying maximum attention to. We have trade balance that we need to fix, and this is a really long-term project. It's not something that we will overcome overnight. But of course, in this context, the war next door, the war in Ukraine is also costing us opportunities. And this is a reality that we have to acknowledge and we have to accept. And this, of course, we see the curiosity, we see the interest of investors, and we have also seen confirmations throughout this week. However, postponed decisions equals time that we lose and growth that we postpone. So in order to accelerate such decisions, in order to address the perception of risk, because of course there is no military threat, there is no threat to Moldova. Moldova is safe as long as Ukraine stands, and Europe is safe as long as Ukraine stands. But to address this risk, of course, we need to address this perception, we need to offer solutions, we need to offer real arguments, and this is the topic of today. We're working with our partners here to launch new investment guarantees, because these are, this not only for the Moldovan situation, these are needed throughout the world. We're working with ODA to launch new schemes that would address more specific needs, because we also want to move very fast. Moldova does not have time to waste, and every decision that is postponed by 2 months, by half a year, by 1 year, means lost opportunities and lost growth that we simply do not want to see. That is why we are willing to work further, to address each and every investor specifically if needed. But of course, that's together with Invest Moldova, together with other institutions and ministries. So yeah, this was just to kick off and to welcome you all, and good luck in this last event and last discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Natalia, for your support, for organizing this event. Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister Dumitru Alaiva. I really want to emphasize the crucial role played by the Ministry of Economic Development and Digitalization, their mission to stimulate economic growth by optimizing regulations for businesses and fostering a thriving business environment. Also, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, do you remember at the very beginning, in the first day of Moldova Business Week, you had a desire to warmly welcome our guests to sunny Moldova? So today is the opportunity, because outside is very beautiful, it's sunny for our event. So just enjoy Moldova, enjoy this sunshine, and let's go to our panel. Esteemed guests, without further delay, let us dive into the event. Now, I have the pleasure of inviting all the speakers to the stage to take their seats. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed panel of speakers. Please. So over the next hours, you'll have the opportunity to learn about guarantee solutions for investment and trade finance, EIB and EBRD perspectives on supporting local and foreign businesses, the role of ODA in providing guarantees and financial support, and a success story from a company that benefited from financial assistance to launch and grow its business. Also, you can consult the event agenda directly via mbw.md, accessing the website. If anyone has questions, please feel free to ask them after the speaker has finished. Kindly raise your hand so that we can ensure you have a microphone. So, I encourage you all make the most of this opportunity and enjoy every moment of this event. Now, let us begin. Our first speaker is Mrs. Olga Sklovskaya, Regional Head of Central and Eastern Europe and Central Asia Multilateral Investment Guarantee Agency, known as MIGA, part of the World Bank, who will discuss guarantee solution for investment and trade finance. Olga, I hope you can hear us well.
I can hear you. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. So,
Very good.
Mrs. Sklovskaya, the floor is yours, the virtual floor.
Thank you very much. And I wish I could be there with you in person. Thank you very much for inviting me to this event. Very happy to share what MIGA can offer. Can you see my screen at this time?
Yeah, it is visible.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay, very good. Then let me start. So once again, thank you very much for the introduction. And as Deputy Prime Minister Alaiba and Director of the Invest Moldova, Ms. Bejan mentioned, there are a number of instruments. Guarantees are one of the instruments that could be available and is available to foreign investors in Moldova. I do want to say, whenever we talk about risk, it's important to mention that investors buy guarantees for various reasons. And these reasons vary from the type of investor, equity investors versus lenders versus companies that may have different contracts in the country. And so we see investors buying coverage, not because they're concerned about specific risk materializing, but just a way to meet their internal risk management requirements and sometimes reduce the cost of financing for their project. Because whether we like it or not, whenever investments are made cross-border, country risk premium is included in the total cost of financing. And so guarantees could be an instrument to help investments pass certain internal decision thresholds, as well as reduce the cost of financing, in particular for loan products. So let me just start by saying a few words about MIGA. We are not a well-known institution in Moldova, I believe, although we did do some of the sort of flagship projects. For instance, some of you who attended the opening of the event in the Radisson Lyon grant probably did not know that when this investment was first made by a company, Dutch company, back in 2000, around 2004, MIGA ensured the initial investment to develop this project, which later was purchased and became part of the Radisson Group. We have supported other projects in Moldova, but overall we are fairly a new instrument, and happy to talk more about that. So MIGA is part of the World Bank Group, and our sister institution, together with our sister institution IFC, we work with the private sector financing for private sector projects. Private sector projects and PPPs, I should add, and there will be some examples of that. So in terms of the size and activities of MIGA, we're active globally. Our portfolio in US dollar terms is about $31 billion. At this point, we more than doubled our portfolio in the last 10 years. And in our last fiscal year, we issued 8.2 billion in guarantees globally. So it's a fairly sizable operation. In terms of the sectors, we are active in energy and extractive industries, primarily renewable energy, manufacturing, agribusiness and services, infrastructure, different types of infrastructure, transportation, water, telecom, and so on. In terms of the allocation by region, Europe and Central Asia is about 25% of MIGA's overall portfolio. But I would say that out of 8.2 billion that we issued last year, 2.8 billion were in Europe and Central Asia, Eastern Europe and Central Asia. So how does MIGA guarantees work? And I think the request was to make it very practical. I will try to talk about some sort of technicalities, but if you have any questions, happy to answer them afterwards or as a follow-up to this conversation. So MIGA guarantee is essentially an insurance product, and it works like an insurance product in a sense that there is an underlying transaction, underlying financial instrument, either equity investment or a loan instrument, loan agreement, maybe swaps in some cases, or different types of contracts. That investment goes to finance a project. For us, it's important that the project benefits the country and brings developmental benefits, tax revenues, creation of jobs. We look at projects also from the perspective of their compliance with environmental and social performance standards, KYC, and financial sustainability. MIGA can cover up to 95% of debt instruments, let's say loans, principal and interest, and our guarantees can cover up to 90% for equity investments, initial equity as well as retained earnings. So if the investor reinvests their profits, those can also be insured later on. And we can provide coverage for fairly long tenors, up to 20 years. 20 years is maximum, but we generally do it up to 15 years for the reasons of reinsurance. I will talk about our covers, and I would say that they can be purchased as a package or in any combination, depending on what risk the investor would like to cover. So in terms of what we cover, a political risk insurance, or also known as investment insurance or country risk insurance, a fairly standard product in the market, and the definitions are also fairly sort of standardized. It's generally transfer restriction and currency inconvertibility, so inability to convert and transfer currency outside of the host country to the investor, profits, loan repayments, and so on. It's expropriation, which is a very broad term, not only encompassing nationalizations, but just various actions that the government might take that could result in the investor sort of losing control and losing rights to the investment. War and civil disturbance, and I think again, Deputy Prime Minister mentioned that, not that there is a threat, but obviously neighboring a country in war could give some investors pause and sort of lead them to seek coverage against war and civil disturbance. And then breach of contract by governments and state-owned entities. This is a coverage for PPP transactions when governments or state-owned entities act in a commercial capacity. And there will be some examples to illustrate that. So here's just a select group of companies and banks we've worked with and who benefited from MIGA's insurance. You see quite a few internationally active banks, as well as companies active in energy, in water and sanitation, infrastructure funds such as Meridium, solar developers like Scatec and others, hospitality groups like Casada. So, and this is again just a small sample. We've issued more than 1,000 contracts and have a quite sort of strong list of clients. And what I would also say, most of our clients are repeat clients. So people have guarantees for if they have more investments than in just one country, they have repeat transactions with us. So just in terms of MIGA, just a few things. We do have quite a sound risk management system built on almost 40 years of experience. MIGA is considered highly rated multilateral development bank by the Basel Committee with a zero risk weighting. We continue to innovate, and we just recently introduced a trade product and are developing a number of other applications. We have strong risk appetite and global reach. As I mentioned, political risk insurance is a niche insurance industry, but it is an industry. And MIGA is only a small part of it. However, we tend to focus on countries where there is little or maybe no appetite to provide risk coverage. And we do have quite strong ENS standards and best practices, which we are sharing and helping our clients to adopt. So it's not just a requirement to do certain things, it's also a support to get there, which is what we provide. Okay, so I talked about investment guarantee solutions, what it means, and sort of how the risks are defined. This presentation is available, so you can maybe read that. And those who are interested in sort of specifics, we can go deeper. So very important examples. What does this mean in practice? I talked about MIGA's risk appetite and global reach. Since February 2022, MIGA issued more than $200 million in coverage for projects in Ukraine. So there is no insurance market at the moment. At sort of in the beginning, there was none really, and now there are pockets of coverage for certain transactions, primarily sort of trade and goods in transit, but the rates are very high. So MIGA remains one of the very few solutions, together maybe with some other development institutions like USDFC, that is willing to consider political risk insurance in in Ukraine, regardless of the nationality of the investor. Some expert credit agencies are open for coverage in Ukraine, but only for their national investors. Okay, so MIGA does it regardless of the nationality of the investor. And so here's one example, which would be sort of directly transferable to Moldova, if that is of interest. So what MIGA insured here is equity investment by a company where there was a private investor, and EBRD is one of the shareholders in the company, but the private investor was concerned about the risk of damage due to war for their investment in multi-tenant warehouse and sort of logistical park called M10, which is 60 kilometers from the Polish border near Lviv. So the first phase, MIGA insured private investment in the first phase of this project, of this park, and it's now occupied. And in general, this is, and maybe my colleague from EBRD will talk about that or mention that, but in principle, this is a multi-phase project, and there could be additional phases there. So again, would be possible to get coverage for this in the private market at the time when we issued the guarantee last year in September. Another project in Ukraine, which was insured in 2016, but again, just relevant example because it's in the agribusiness sector, which is a strong sector in Moldova. MIGA insured the Swedish company that established and sort of built and started operating a factory, warehouse, production facility for manufacturing of cereals. Okay, again, the amount is fairly small, 6.4 million equity investment. We provided coverage for 10 years against all the political risks, including expropriation, currency and convertibility, transfer restriction, and war and civil disturbance. Here's another example from the agribusiness sector in the region, but a little bit further away. South Korean company DOA invested 4 million in a smart farm in the Kyrgyz Republic. The structure is fairly straightforward. Again, several shareholders, equity investment in the company and we insured their equity investment only against currency and convertibility and transfer restriction, because that was their main concern. So moving on, here's an example of a PPP transaction where MIGA insured Meridium. It's an infrastructure fund based in France, very active globally in Eastern Europe as well as in Africa. And Meridium invested in developing healthcare facilities in Turkey under Turkish PPP scheme. So you see here, MIGA provided coverage to Meridium, which was the only foreign shareholder. The other shareholders are local, and MIGA cannot cover local investors because the mandate is to promote foreign investment. There were a number of partners who were lenders to the project: IFC, EBRD, DG, Proparco. But despite that, the foreign investors still needed MIGA's coverage. And we provided coverage against breach of contract, which included the non-payment by the Ministry of Health of Turkey under the implementation agreement. So the company built the hospital and made it available to the ministry to operate the hospital, and the ministry is supposed to make availability payments, and MIGA insured those payments, in addition to the risks of expropriation, currency and convertibility, and then war and civil disturbance. And this is just one of 7 projects that MIGA insured in this healthcare PPP program in Turkey. Here's an example, again, of a PPP project, also with Meridium, in Jordan, in the airport space, where Meridium acquired and then invested to modernize airport in Amman. Again, MIGA provided coverage for the 3 traditional political risks: transfer restriction, expropriation, war and civil disturbance, and breach of contract on the obligations of the government under the concession agreement. This type of coverage, especially breach of contract, is very important in the context of PPP transactions, helping to make transactions investable and especially bankable, because mitigating some of the payment risks makes it easier for banks to provide financing, and again, has the potential of reducing the cost of the financing. So MIGA process, we generally start with a definitive application. This is a sort of mandate given to MIGA, but we are fairly informal in a sense that if there is a project, if there is an idea, or if there is an investment and where investor is considering insurance, investor can just contact us and seek a premium indication and also initial feedback on whether MIGA would be able to insure investment, to get feedback on the eligibility and overall fit with MIGA's mandate. And that can be done informally via email and a phone call. Once we have a sense on both sides that it makes sense to move ahead, right? The pricing works, the scope of coverage works. Then we ask that investor submits a definitive application, which is a form of a mandate, and then MIGA goes into its internal approval processes. Early on, we do the so-called early screening, sort of a go, no-go decision. And if we go ahead, then we do due diligence, seek management and board approval, and then sign a contract. Here, I also included emails and phone numbers of my contact information, as well as another colleague who is covering Moldova in my team. And maybe I stop here and turn over to the organizers to see how they would like to handle questions now or later. Thank you very much.
Mrs. Sklovskaya, thank you so much. Thank you very much for your insightful presentation. It was really a pleasure to hear about MIGA guarantees from the first source. So maybe there are any questions from audience? Okay, if not, then it is my pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Alexandru Kosovan, Associate Director and Senior Banker at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, who will share the EBRD's perspective on supporting local and foreign businesses. Mr. Kosovan, we are ready to hear from you.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you very much. Really glad to be here with you today. I would like to start also by echoing what Mr. Deputy Prime Minister Alaiba and Ms. Bejan have mentioned. Indeed, quite a remarkable week for the Republic of Moldova. You've certainly managed to put Moldova on the map for investors. So congratulations on that. Very nice and relevant panels, including the one today. I would like to start my presentation, so to say, with a few kind of general remarks in terms of what the EBRD has been doing and our way of doing business in Moldova. Well, first of all, we have remained committed to help Moldova, as well as the local companies, foreign investors in Moldova along the years. We have actually invested over 1 billion euros in the Republic of Moldova since the war in Ukraine has started. We have tried to maintain to the maximum extent possible a sense of business as usual, if I can say so. Our presence and our continued support to local and foreign companies has been a testament of our dedication and, in a way, you could say, a quasi-guarantee in itself. We are trying to stand by and to back their projects here, trying to be together with them through thin and thick. As many of you know, the EBRD is working, with the government, with the public sector. We also work with the private sector alike. In doing this, we work with the local companies and foreign direct investors, as I have mentioned. And in reaching out to the private sector, we actually work directly with them. We finance their project that they consider for investing here in Moldova, but also we can support and do support their projects through local commercial banks. We also support commercial banks in themselves to expand their business or to enhance the business in Moldova. So we try to be as flexible and as relevant as possible. Having said this, and in light of the topic of the presentation and of the forum today, I will delve in just a few aspects on what we do directly, but then mostly focusing on the guarantee aspects or our risk-sharing instruments. Okay, I may stand up actually so that I can share with you that those I've prepared. Well, you are familiar with the EBRD, and I will
Mr. Kosovan, sorry to interrupt you. You can take my place.
Oh, can I? Okay, as you see. Well, thank you very much, Evelina. Well, we are an institution that really try to respond to the needs of investors in a specific country. Okay, so we work in quite a number of geographies. We work in 36 economies, and we have resident offices in all these countries. I will not go into each point that you see there. You can read for yourself. But we come with expertise, we come with country knowledge, and we come with sector sector insights that can help tailor the projects and support the investors as they develop the project and then as they implement the project in these countries. Okay, in terms of the investments that we do, as I have mentioned, we work directly with investors, and we can do this by providing with corporate loans. We provide like debt instruments, and we can invest in equity. When investing in equity, we normally do not take controlling stakes. Usually, it stays within in a range of like around 35%. Usually, does not go above 50, but we are not entering as controlling shareholders. The investors continue to manage and to operate the business as they see fit, with our insights on how to maximize, how to add value to their business. We also finance loans directly, which can be a typical kind of long-term loan, which can go up to 15 years. It could be project finance as well. Thank you very much. Okay. In terms of the more plain vanilla instruments, which you see there, I will not go into much detail, but we also have the guarantees. This is mostly, the one that you see there is focusing on trade finance. This is basically to help local banks to amplify or to stimulate, let's say, the companies in the country towards international trade. We can finance basically any financing need that an investor has. You can see a few ideas there, like capex for expansion, for modernization, for acquisition or consolidation of businesses. We can support privatizations, PPPs, working capital facilities, and the likes. Okay. In terms of the our footprint in Moldova, and many of you already know us from our direct investments that we do. At the moment, our track record is quite significant, and you can see our effort in trying to support the authorities of the Republic of Moldova and the investors in Moldova and that are coming to Moldova. We are the country's largest institutional investor at the moment. We have been a long-standing development partner to the government, as you can see, from our cumulative investments, which have already reached 2.4 billion as cumulative investments since we have started investing in the Republic of Moldova, and of which about 48% are invested or have been invested in the private sector. The private sector is essentially, I would say, part of the EBRD's DNA. At corporate level, at global level, our total investments actually represent, total investments in the private sector are of circa 80%. But of course, each country is different. Given Moldova's big infrastructure needs, many of our investments have gone into sustainable infrastructure. You could see that investment in sustainable infrastructure represent about 56% of our portfolio, of course, followed by additional investments in financial institutions, and of course, industry, commerce, and agribusiness follow suit. In terms of the portfolio, you can see a few numbers there. We have invested in Moldova, including in equity of local and foreign companies, and of course the portfolio data is there and it speaks for itself. We are on track to have another successful year for Moldova here and for EBRD as well, where our annual investments are likely to exceed 200 million in this year alone. Despite the circumstances, we continue to support the development plans of the foreign investors, which have been brave enough to continue their business. Of course, the investors who are already here, they don't have much choice really, so they look how to diversify risk, how can they do more. And what is encouraging, that investors who are present in Moldova, they have chosen to expand their business. Just to give an example, just earlier this year we have supported the e-mobility project at regional level for Drexelmeier Group. Part of the investments also are dedicated to Moldova. We have also supported Premier Energy IPO going to the Bucharest Stock Exchange, and of course Moldova will be a beneficiary of that as well. In terms of the risk sharing and the guarantee instruments, this is where actually I want to go, so that you have a broad view of what EBRD does, and now really to show more a blend of how we support businesses via the local banks or directly to enhance their let's say risk-taking capacity and amplify the business in general. One of the instruments I would like to mention is what we call a risk-sharing framework. This is a framework whereby the EBRD is trying to actually support the local companies by working shoulder to shoulder with the local banks. Technically, we are actually enabling the local banks to provide a loan to a company which either they are close to reach their single exposure obligor limit, or simply they want to diversify the business for that company so that they could lend more to other companies. And in that case, we basically can take up to 50 or 65% of that project risk on EBRD. thereby freeing up more resources to the local bank so that they can lend more to the same company or to other companies in their portfolio or to new clients. This is basically how it works in a schematic way, but what are the key elements there? So it's a mechanism through which we share the risk taken by a partner bank. What we call a partner bank is usually a bank that has passed our due diligence criteria. We already have a degree of trust. We are establishing a formal relationship with them. At the moment in Moldova, by the way, we work with 5 banks, and two of them are active users of this risk-sharing facility that I am describing now. So the benefits and the key elements are there. I will not go into each and every one of them, but I would like to mention the benefits as seen both from a partner bank perspective, but also from a borrower, or rather sub-borrower perspective. Okay, so from a commercial bank perspective, and I think it's also through the lens to which the regulator looks, like the national bank or the associations. So you would see that it actually helps such partner bank to address its own capital relief issues. It actually fosters access to cheaper financial sources. It of course increases the partner bank's returns, their return on assets, return on equity, their own ROC. And of course it supports the banks in achieving and doing more businesses, in meeting their own KPIs. And of course, client retention, particularly speaking about clients that reach this large, or are moving towards the exhausting the single obligor exposure limit. This is a way where a local bank can finance more with the same good client without having to involve more institutions, as not to complicate, let's say, the way a project is structured from a financing perspective for that client. And of course, it also comes with trainings and visibility. Trainings are supported by EBRD, by the technical assistance we provide to such commercial banks, so that they can deploy this product, so that they can work with their clients in a successful manner. From a borrower perspective, from the companies, from the investors' perspective, this fosters also access to cheaper and diverse financial sources. It also helps address the need for technical assistance and advisory, so that the corporates, so that the clients also improve their own processes, improve their financial and operational practices. Okay. Also, we can combine with some grant support. We call it fintech. It happens on a cashback basis. It aims to stimulate innovation, investment in green solution, and the more innovative they are, the bigger the part of the grant. But basically, this is the instrument where we try to bring in grants together with the more commercial financing which we are offering through the RSF. Of course, technical assistance to the benefit of the client includes the Skills in Business program to help them also explore, let's say, new markets or improve their own processes. From a guarantee perspective, okay, so what I have been mentioning is that we are working directly, but we also try to enhance or to take some risk on us, so that the local banks can transfer some risks on EBRD so that they can do more. So that's what the RSF was about. What we also do, we also work together with the EU, and in practice, in particular, we work with the EFSD+, that stands for the European Fund for Sustainable Development Plus. They work with a number of IFIs, EIB included. I think Alberto will mention his own right. What we have there is a number of instruments that also enables EBRD to take even more risk in the countries where we operate. What you see here is a reference to the EBRD's EFSD Plus High Bar program. Okay, so this is basically a multi-million guarantee that operates in the neighborhood East and South countries, in the Western Balkans, Central Asia, and Turkey. Moldova is covered there, as you see, and it seeks to accelerate the investments in the current and next wave of climate mitigation technologies, in in green solutions. So to amplify that, to be able to do more, the EFSD Plus can be employed by the bank, and it actually can translate eventually to where it's the case, some lower pricing to foreign direct investors, but more importantly to enable new niches that can gain upside. For Moldova, one of such niches would be the investment in the renewable sector. We look forward to the upcoming auctions and in the renewables, in the energy sector. As you know, the Moldovan government has announced the auctions for 165 megawatts that would be taken to the market via an auction process. 105 of those would be for wind, 60 for solar. So we may as well make use of this instrument to do even more than we can already do. Okay, so this is all to enable us to take even more risk in Moldova, in addition to what we are already taking, as I have mentioned before. With the focus on the energy sector, we already have quite a big pipeline, and here I'm speaking at the EBRD level, at the bank overall. You can see the quite nice pipeline and the type of sub-industries within the energy sector that are lined up to benefit of this EFSD Plus guarantee via the EBRD. Okay. Other similar instrument that enables EBRD to take even more risk in countries where we operate, and here I speak about the program of which Moldova is also part of, is the Financial Inclusion and Growth for All program. Okay, so this is a facility to enable both EBRD to take more risk, but also for EBRD to enable local banks to take more risk. What I mean by that is described into more detail here. And here I'd like to mention the other risk sharing or risk transfer mechanism. If the RSF, the risk sharing facility, we were looking at working together with local banks to enable individual new sub-loans to borrowers, this is a portfolio risk sharing, where without analyzing each loan bilaterally together with the local bank, we would rather help local commercial banks by taking some of the overall lending portfolio risk on us as EBRD. Okay, so basically it's a risk transfer instrument where the partner banks and where their credit loss is actually associated with their portfolio of new loans are partially transferred to EBRD in exchange for a periodic fee. Okay, the underlying risk transfer instrument is the financial guarantee from us. Okay, and essentially it aims to support expanding the commercial bank's lending capacity in priority sectors. The benefits are quite remarkable, I would say, and of course it's also looking through the lens of the regulator or from the national bank, from prudential perspectives. Of course, this is very beneficial and also for the economy of the Republic of Moldova because it enables local bank with EBRD support to do more. The reason I'm mentioning this is that it is a new product which is going live, and we expect that starting with next month, at least 2 banks will sign up for this particular project, and we are here to do more together with the local banks. The other instruments that we are supporting, and this is one of the instruments that I mentioned, one of my prior slides, is a trade finance facility. It's more of a trade finance guarantee, if I can put it that way, to help local banks support their clients, particularly in the case of international trade, so they could cushion some of the risk so that Moldovan companies can participate in the international circuit. So we do that, and of course we do also a number of additional projects which could be summarized as the supply chain financing instrument, which you can see the details there. What I would like to mention is that we try to work directly. We try to enable banks to do more with our support so that they can transfer most of their risk on us, so that they can enable further businesses in the country. Why we emphasize guarantees through local banks so much is that we really try to be additional. We try to actually enable local banks to do more. We would come in from kind of larger amounts when we try to invest directly, and the banks are really like say a heart in a body. A properly functioning economy would have local banks doing a proper job in channeling the funds, moving them around, financing working capital, investment projects, and we are here to help them do more of that in addition to what we do directly. Of course, all projects are different, and here I have spoken of what we can do in the private realm. We also work in the public sector. I will not go too much into that direction, but where we can, we try to couple our efforts with other institutions. Olga from Amiga has spoken earlier about a very bold project that we have supported in the Ukraine. Even it was after the war in Ukraine has started. It's the Lviv Industrial Park, the M10. It's basically 60 kilometers from the Polish-Ukrainian border, and it has happened even, let's put it this way, despite the circumstances, but with joint projects and in combination with a number of instruments available to the market. All that project was able to take off. It's a multi-stage, multi-tenant project, which certainly is very, very beneficial for the region and boosting Ukraine's capacity to, let's say, for its economy to operate, given its current challenges and constraints. So I will stop here. I'm open to questions, should you have any, now or later. And giving back the floor to Evelina, should I?
Yeah. Mr. Kosovan, thank you so much for your presentation and valuable information. Maybe we have some questions? Okay. Now that we have heard about EBRD's perspective, I think it's only the fitting that we explore the European Investment Bank's viewpoint on supporting local and foreign businesses. So, esteemed guests, are there, if there are any questions, where there are not, as I see, there are no questions. I am pleased to invite Mr. Alberto Carlei, head of the European Investment Bank representation to Moldova, to speak on the EIB's support for local and foreign businesses. Mr. Carlei, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I can only echo the congratulations, the compliment for the organization this amazing week, Moldova Investment Week. And I'm very happy to be here with all of you today. Just to, before getting into the topic, just to frame a bit the EIB and what the EIB does in Moldova. The European Investment Bank, we are the financial arm of the European Union. We are owned by the member states of the European Union, and we do lending volumes that range year from year, but we can look at 65 to 85 billion globally, out of which roughly 10% is done outside the European Union every year, percentage more or less that can vary. Looking at specifically at our activity, we split into main big macro categories. One is public sector financing, so infrastructure and strategic assets owned by the state. And the other one is indeed support to private sector. In Moldova specifically, we started our activity back in 2007, and as of today, we built an overall portfolio in terms of signature volume of roughly 1.5 billion, with some signature that happened exactly this week. We have really stepped up our activity in the last years in order to help the country face the several crises that have hit nearly simultaneously, which means that in perspective from 2021 to today, for example, our overall signature volume went from 850 million to 1.5 billion. And out of this number, large part of it, it's indeed for public infrastructure, so road, rails, energy efficiency, climate, environment, and so on. But equally crucially, an important percentage, roughly 22% of it, it's dedicated to support private sector. Private sector that we support with a number of instruments. When I mean private sector, I mean small, medium enterprises primarily, but also corporates. Number of products that we have. The first one that comes to mind is lending. And we do that either with a thematic specific credit line dedicated to strategic sectors. I can think in this case that we started our activity with an overall lending envelope back in 2013 dedicated to a key sector of the country, wineries. The project was called Filière du Vin, was a 75 million envelope dedicated to support wineries in Moldova, which was prepared exactly in those days when Moldovan wineries were hit by the Russian embargo. And it was definitely one of those envelopes that has helped virtually all the main wineries in Moldova to improve product quality with the fund made available for investment. And definitely it has been then such a success that has been, I would say, translated into another similar product but with a larger scope dedicated to the broader agriculture value chain, which this program is still ongoing today. It's called Livada Moldovei for Garden of Moldova. It's a 120 million lending envelope, which is provided to the state, which then on-lend funds to a number of financial intermediaries, specifically 9 financial intermediaries, which are then in charge of allocating our resources to small and medium enterprises acting in the agricultural value chain, promoting, which each of them promotes specific investment project. Investment project can be anything, can be warehouse, agricultural equipment, photovoltaic panels, irrigation systems, and so on. As of to date, this envelope, thanks to this project, more than 500 investments have been financed and have been implemented. This has helped the sector to increase its resilience, become more competitive. It created jobs, and you can imagine the impact on the economy overall. And it's, I would say, a very good example of successful blending of EIB financing together with technical assistance. Of course, this project, given the magnitude and the complexity, benefited from substantial technical assistance from the European Union, I believe 2.2 million, which has helped putting together the implementation unit that then has followed through the execution of the operation, and also provided the setup, the strategy. And I would say these thematic credit lines are complemented from our cooperation directly with financial intermediaries. A key difference is, while for this thematic line there is a double layer of intermediation, so funds go through the state and the state then on-lend to banks, and banks then channel the funds to small and medium enterprises. We can also work directly with financial intermediaries, and this we do as well in Moldova with selected financial intermediaries. We take directly credit risk on certain banks, which are our client, which then, based on certain eligibility criteria, provide our liquidity we give them to small and medium enterprises that ask for funds for individual projects. This is important to mention, are not treasury lines that we provide to banks, but these are funds that we provide on the understanding that these funds will reach the real economy. So within a given time frame, they need to be allocated to small to medium enterprises. And it's also important to specify that in both double intermediation and direct lending, the EIB does not perform in these cases appraisal on the specific project, but it's a fully delegated model. So we fully rely on the financial intermediary to do appraisals, to analyze the project, because ultimately it's the financial intermediary that will take credit risk on the small medium enterprises, while we, on the other hand, take credit risk on the banks that is intermediating our fund. The lending activity that I mentioned is complemented with another important product, which is partial portfolio guarantees. Also in this case, we work directly with the commercial banks, and with the expertise of the European Investment Funds, which is a specific dedicated part of our group. and thanks to resources made available under several envelopes from the European Union, I can think in the past to Innofin, DCFTA phase 1, and others that will come, we are able to structure together with financial intermediaries partial portfolio guarantees, meaning that on a portfolio of SME exposure to be built by the intermediary, which are intermediate, by the way, that also in our case need to pass a certain due diligence and are properly fully analyzed by our expert beforehand. This understanding, the intermediary can build a portfolio of exposure where the EIB will provide a guarantee line by line on each single exposure up to a certain percentage, and at portfolio level also up to a certain percentage. Now, obviously, it's in order to assure alignment of interest, we don't cover 100% of the exposure, but we cover part of it. And it's a product that has shown through the years to be extremely successful and for which we face very high demand. And with combining these two, the lending and the partial portfolio guarantees, ultimately, in order to support the real economy, we also, the EIB also address which are the two which are, I would say, the main market failure that face SME when they try to access finance. One is availability of properly priced liquidity, and this we address with our credit lines, which are known to be fairly long term. We can provide through this credit line loans up to 10 years, and also with interesting amount ranging from very small amount up to 5 million. And at the same time, also we address an issue which is collateral requirement. Ultimately, often what happens is that financial intermediaries, they have a certain risk appetite, and because of that, they require certain collateral that SME might struggle to provide, but thanks to a portfolio guarantee that we can provide, we help the intermediary to increase actually the risk appetite, which then result in lower collateral requirement, and furthermore, therefore, it also unlock investment that otherwise would be not happening, not taking place. In addition to this product that I mentioned, we also can work directly for larger projects with corporates. In this case, there is no intermediate bank, but we work directly with the counterpart. We do appraise the project ourselves, and we take the credit risk directly ourselves, which means when we perform a due diligence, in addition to having an investment plan, which has to be eligible according to our criteria, and this you can easily imagine, I can think it can be related to climate action, green economy, sustainability, research and development. The eligibility angles are many, but in addition to that, also it has to be a sound and financially strong counterpart, because ultimately we will analyze the cash flow repayment capacity of the borrower. The benefit of the pluses of this kind of product, again, is probably fairly long tenor, depending on which is phase two main criteria. One is the economic life of what we finance. Obviously for fixed asset is longer compared, for example, to R&D. And the other, of course, criteria to blend in is the credit worthiness of the counterpart. The pricing, the signaling effect, and an appraisal process can be demanding, but is also, once done, it provides a certain positive signaling to the rest of the market. And also, it's important to mention that with our operation, as a golden rule within the bank, we can finance normally up to 50% of eligible investment plan. This is in order to crowd in other investors. We don't want to crowd out other investors, but we want to finance up to a certain amount so that other investors can also step in. And this in percentage, in exceptional cases, can be increased up to 75% in dedicated specific areas, like, for example, energy efficiency. Corporate lending product that we have, and in terms of direct interaction with the counterpart, can be complemented by other kind of direct lending through project finance initiatives. The difference is, the essential difference is that while in a corporate loan we take risk on an existing corporate, in a project finance operation we take risk on the project that we will go to finance without recourse on the investor behind. This is a product that we see has been used successfully, for example, in the field of renewables, and here I can immediately think of the ongoing tender of renewable that is going on in Moldova. We have experienced through the years also strong appetite and demand for our loan, specifically within the project finance sector, because normally our pricing tends to be fairly competitive. We like when renewable projects are assigned through tenders, like in this case, especially when tenders are open internationally, like we have here in Moldova. Depending, of course, in this case, on a case-by-case, we look at what are the financial parameters that will define the deal, but roughly we look at debt-to-equity ratio at 80-20. We would normally rely that all our the revenues that then will be foreseen to generate cash flow into repayment capacity assessment are generated and provided through a PPA, so we wouldn't take normally merchant risk. And ultimately, we would provide tenor which are in line with the PPA, so with the purchase agreement and the offtake agreement that is provided by the government or by the regulator. Last but not least, going back to SME, we have recently moved, managed to support also lower element of a capital structure of an SME, so not only loans and guarantees, but also we managed to move into the equity bits of it. This we don't do it through direct equity operations, but through indirect equity. We started to invest in funds that then deploy our equity into investment into potentially generating income small medium enterprises. End of last year, we invested 25 million in Horizon Capital Funds number 4. And these funds ultimately provide equity and quasi-equity instrument to small and medium enterprises with high innovative potential and export-oriented, which are active in Ukraine, but also importantly in Moldova as well. So this provides an overview, I would say, of what we do in terms of supporting private sector. I try to cover all the various instruments in a relatively concise time, but of course, I'm open for questions. If there will be now, later at the end, or anytime, you can reach out and we'll be happy to try to answer. Thank you.
Mr. Carlei, thank you for these valuable insights. If there are no questions, having now explored the perspectives of MIGA, EBRD, and EIB, I suggest we move forward to hearing the viewpoint of a local Moldovan institution on the assistance provided to the businesses. So I am pleased to invite Mr. Vadim Codranu, head of the Entrepreneurship Development Organization, to share his insights on the role of ODA in providing guarantees and financial support. Mr. Codranu, I encourage you to take my place as you have a presentation, and I will take yours. So we are eager to listen from you.
Thank you. Good morning, and I'm very, very happy to see you here, and I will be sharing a presentation which is focused on local experience, but trying to get to the level of my previous, the previous speakers. Of course, we tend to be like them, but having the realities of Moldova, we have to focus on the support of micro, small, and medium enterprises. That's why our products are slightly different. Of course, you will see a lot of common interventions, which of course are based on market failures, which Mr. Carlei was mentioning before. And I will give you initially an overview of the institution so you can understand the context of the financial guarantees which we are managing. In general, ODA is a public institution, and what we do is based on public money and the money which the government is managing to attract from development partners. Currently, we are working with government money, with World Bank money, with the world money from the European Union delegation, and we are trying to start a new product in a couple of weeks with money borrowed from the Polish Development Bank and in a couple of months with money from the German Development Bank. This will go together in what we call access to finance wing of the institution. And access to finance wing is comprised of lending to financial institutions, eligible financial institutions, which in their turn will be lending, borrowing money to SMEs. And of course, we are using also public money to run 373 program, the interest rate compensation program, which everybody here is aware of. And with money from the government and money capitalized from the World Bank resources, we are running the Credit Guarantee Fund. The Credit Guarantee Fund is not a new tool, it's an old tool, but it has been taken by WODA several years ago. Of course, we also run public-private dialogue, consulting services, and infrastructure and business support by supporting business incubators and industrial platforms, development of the industrial platforms. I will go very fast through what we do besides guarantees because they are linked, and then I will focus on the guarantees. Probably the most known product which WODA is known on Moldovan market are the support grants, the grants for SMEs, which are focusing on startups, but also on developing businesses. And we are targeting social groups or areas which are considered by the government prioritary and which are considered to bring high value. That's why we are running now 10 programs and developing a new one, focusing on diaspora, bringing diaspora back or motivating diaspora to invest in Moldova. Women entrepreneurship, empowerment of women and their enhancement of their business abilities. Young generation, we're young entrepreneurs, we are trying to focus with them, to focus on them with a bigger share of grant out of their total investment. And innovations. Investments into innovation are also subsidized by the government, by international partners. I forgot to mention here, we are also partnering here with Ukraine, Moldova, US Enterprise Fund. And when we speak about developing businesses which are not newly established, we focus on digital transformation, tourism, ecological transformation, small producers, retechnologization and internationalization, or export-oriented companies. All of them are being opened right now, except the tourism and innovation programs, because for one we have finished the resources, for the second one we didn't start yet. One very important thing is that these programs can be combined in the same investment or the same project, given that you fulfill the criteria for each of the programs we want to apply for, and you don't apply with the same investment object for different projects. You have to have different investment objects. Okay, very short about FACEM. FACEM, as I said, is a fund which in essence is a fund of funds. We are collecting their money from the budget, from BGK, which is the Polish Development Bank, and will be collecting very soon from the German Development Bank, KfW. This money are intended to go to financial institutions from the Republic of Moldova with the goal to be lended to businesses at subsidized interest rates or interest rates which are cheaper than the market rates in order to stimulate investments, in order to stimulate long-term finance for SMEs and to make it very accessible for them. We are being supported here with the launch of a new product in a couple of weeks. We are being supported here by the European Commission, and the resources are being borrowed by us from Poland. Destination of funding can be everything. If we work with government money, if we work with partners' money, then of course we have to follow their demands. And for example, in the Polish case, will be focusing on energy efficiency and climate mitigation measures. These are to be launched, or we have launched already, the call for the banks to apply for this product. The interest rate should not go beyond 5.5% for businesses, or it can be even lower. And one new but not to be neglected is the 373, is a product which arose because of the situation we had last year and the year before. With the high increase of inflation, the interest rates grow up and nobody wanted to invest. Basically, nobody wanted they wanted to invest, but they couldn't afford financing at the market rates. That's why government said that we will compensate whatever is over 3% for interest rate in credit success in euros or dollars, or whatever is over 7% in Moldovan lei. And now this project has, I think the numbers are from yesterday, we have signed 571 credits for more than 400 beneficiaries. And what is very important, 23 of these credits are being combined with financial guarantees products which we are managing. That's why I wanted to make this introduction, because all what I have been speaking about until now can be combined with financial guarantees. And the loan value which was provided is around 75 million euro, and which generated or stimulated an investment of 115 million euro. It's a little bit more than 1 year, I think 15 months. These are the results of the program. Going to guarantees. Currently, we are managing 2 types of guarantees, but only one is operationally active, and I will explain why. The individual guarantees, which everybody is aware of, can vary from 500,000 lei to 7 million lei guarantee value, which we can offer or grant to different types of businesses. These are the spread of share of risk sharing which we are taking with the financial institutions. And as you can see, we can go up to 350, or equivalent in Moldovan lei of 350,000 euros, which cannot be more than 50% of the risk taken. Risk taken we are sharing with the financial institution. By the way, we are partnering for individual guarantees with all banks from Moldova. And of course, we are open. We have 2 contracts signed with microfinance institutions. So you can access them directly to the bank, or businesses in Moldova can access this type of product directly to the bank without the need of addressing this to us directly. We have programs which are targeting new entrepreneurs or newly created SMEs with different risk-sharing criteria. And the length of the guarantee is according to the investment project and the credit which you are accessing from the bank. In the case of operational credits, we cannot take more than 3 years guarantees. The cost for beneficiary is 0.5% out of the current, not from the initial value, but from the balance of your credit. This has proved to be a very useful tool, and until now the institution has granted 2,500 guarantees, averaging we're capping at 100 million or 110 million euro equivalent in lei value of guarantees, which has supported investments of more than 300 million. The process is very simple. The SME is going to a bank, is asking to take a loan, but let's suppose they don't have enough collateral. They ask for the bank to apply for a guarantee at our institution. The bank is doing it to us. We have an initial internal process which is taking usually 1 day. In case of bigger guarantees or larger guarantees, we have to have a different process which is taking 2 to 4 days. This is the process which we are following, and based on the decision from ODA, the bank can grant a credit or can offer a credit without taking 150% of collateral. I mentioned before that we have launched also portfolio guarantees. This is a product which we are launching together with the World Bank, and the resources are available in our accounts, and since we launched it publicly, one bank has signed a contract with us and we will be starting issuing this type of guarantees. And two banks are being in negotiations right now with us, and negotiations are not difficult, but there are some certain criteria which are imposed by our donor, by the World Bank, because we are trying to focus on some type of business approach. This will be available on the market this year. And the idea behind it, or the difference between a portfolio guarantee and a guarantee, individual guarantee, is that the bank will not have to apply to WODA to get an acceptance for issuing you to the SME a guarantee. They will be simply deciding based on criteria if they can take from this balance and offer it to the SME. This will, or the process will fasten the process, will make it easier for SMEs to access finance, will not depend on us, will not depend on the processes or agreements between banks and the WODA or the situation. They will have to follow specific criteria and report to us once per month. Of course, we'll be checking, but this is the aim of this tool is to fasten the process and to make it cheaper. The future plans and with the idea which we have been working with the ministry is to develop something towards export credits according to OECD criteria. This has been defined as a fund that dedicated for export credits. We don't know exactly if it will take this form, the fund, or something else, but we are working towards that in order to make it faster or to make it easier for export-oriented companies to access finance in different forms. We are also trying to find a solution for businesses which are trying to export what EBRD is doing, but I guess at another scale. We're trying to support also micro and small businesses, and of course we cannot compare the tickets, but of course tickets are different and the cost will be different. We are in discussions with MIGA, with Volga, which has presented here today. Of course their tickets are a bit larger than the ones which our beneficiaries can afford, and we are trying to find a solution in order to split those, to create some kind of portfolio guarantees, or to find resources in another institutions. This is what I plan to tell you, but I'm open for questions, and yeah, my colleagues are also open every day to answer to your inquiries. Thank you.
Mr. Cutranu, thank you very much for your detailed presentation and for the valuable information you have provided. I am confident that our audience find that information very informative. So, moving forward, I am delighted to introduce Mrs. Glevtsov, who will share her fascinating success story. Mrs. Glevtsov?
Eu am să vorbesc în limba română. Bună ziua, stimată audiență! Bună ziua, distinși participanți la acest eveniment! Numele meu este Valentina și sunt directorul companiei Genius WWW, specializată în producerea energiei electrice din surse regenerabile. Este o onoare să mă aflu aici astăzi pentru a împărtăși experiența mea și a discuta despre provocările și realizările pe care le-am întâmpinat în călătoria antreprenorială. Într-o lume în continuă schimbare, fiecare dintre noi aspirăm la succes, însă drumul spre acesta nu este niciodată lipsit de dificultăți. Mediul de afaceri din Moldova este încă marcat de provocări semnificative. Accesul la finanțare este adesea limitat, iar resursele disponibile sunt insuficiente pentru a sprijini toate inițiativele antreprenoriale. În acest context, mulți antreprenori se confruntă cu obstacole care le pot descuraja visurile și ambițiile. Este esențial să recunoaștem rolul vital al sprijinului instituțional în dezvoltarea afacerilor. În cazul meu, sprijinul oferit de Banca Mondială prin intermediul programului 373 și ODA a fost o adevărată salvare. Aceste inițiative nu doar că au facilitat accesul la resurse financiare, dar și au contribuit la crearea unui mediu mai favorabil pentru dezvoltarea companiei noastre. Astăzi sunt aici ca un exemplu concret al modului în care sprijinul financiar și consultația adecvată pot transforma visurile în realitate. Vreau să exprim recunoștința mea profundă pentru oportunitatea de a vorbi despre cum imposibilul poate deveni posibil atunci când există suport și încredere. Pe parcursul călătoriei mele, pentru a-mi realiza visul, am fost conștientă de provocările și sacrificiile ce mă așteptau. Fiecare pas înainte a necesitat perseverență și determinare. Am bătut la multe uși ale instituțiilor bancare, iar în fiecare refuz pe care l-am întâmpinat nu m-au descurajat. Dimpotrivă, aceste experiențe m-au întărit, oferindu-mi motivația de a continua să lupt pentru visul meu. În cele din urmă a venit și ziua mult așteptată în care mi s-a oferit oportunitatea de a mă implementa proiectul. Victoria Bank a fost instituția care a înțeles potențialul afacerilor mele, la fel prin intermediul programului 373 și ODA, cu condiții financiare avantajoase și o echipă de profesioniști dedicați. Ei au avut curajul să investească în viziunea mea. Ei au avut încredere și au asumat riscul și mi-au oferit succesul. Această colaborare s-a dovedit a fi un moment de cotitură, oferind un sprijin financiar necesar în timp record, accentuez, în timp record, în mai puțin de nicio lună, am fost garant financiar de la ODA și financiar de la Banca Victoria Bank. Adică ODA a conlucrat foarte rapid, timp de 5 zile, a analizat pachetul meu de documente și mi-a oferit sprijinul de care aveam nevoie. Prin produsele serviciilor pe care le oferim, ne propunem să contribuim la un viitor mai sustenabil, folosind resursele regenerabile pentru a reduce impactul asupra mediului. Cred că este datoria noastră să protejăm planeta pentru generațiile viitoare, iar fiecare pas pe care îl facem în această direcție contează. În încheiere, vreau să le mulțumesc din suflet tuturor celor care au contribuit la această realizare. Sprijinul vostru a fost inițial în depășirea obstacolelor și atingerea obiectivelor. Vă doresc tuturor pace, sănătate și putere, deoarece succesul este rezervat celor puternici.
Doamna Clevțov, vă mulțumesc frumos pentru căldura cu care ați vorbit. Ne bucurăm din suflet că istoria dumneavoastră într-adevăr este una de succes. I'll switch to English. Mrs. Klevtsov, thank you so much for sharing your journey and success story. We are thrilled to see how guarantees and financial aid can indeed lead to successful ventures. Maybe there are any questions from the audience? Okay. So on this positive note, dear speakers, dear audience, I want to extend my sincere gratitude for professionalism of our speakers. As we conclude the Moldova Business Week, I would like to thank you all for joining us. I would like to thank very much our speakers for their fascinating topics, for their invaluable presentations, experience that they shared with us. Esteemed audience, please join me in giving a round of applause to our speakers. Also, let's give a round of applause to the Invest Moldova agency, particularly the Legal and Aftercare Department. Thank you so much. So, dear guests, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all of you. to our speakers, to our participants, to our partners for their valuable contributions. We hope that the connections made this week will continue to fortify your business success. Our legal and aftercare department remains at your service for any time, for any further inquiries, for any further materials, maybe you need them, or meeting requests, why not? Please don't hesitate to reach out. So also we are excited to announce our next event in partnership with Bucharest Stock Exchange on November 19th here in Chișinău, and hope to see you all at Moldova Business Week 2025. Let's shape the future of the business together. Also, we have a bit of time for networking sessions, so I invite you there. Thank you so much.